Hello, students. My name is Ms. Reina. I am a teacher at the Academy for Health Science Professions and STEM in La Jolla, and I will be going over with you the Algebra 2 material. So let's go ahead and begin. So if you'll notice, your first chapter is chapter 1-1, which is all about expressions and formulas. So the first thing I'm going to present to you is Cornell Notes style notes. And if you would like to copy these, that would be great, so that to give you a little background and information on what you need to know in the chapters. So let's go ahead and begin with some of the vocabulary. So if you notice, my Cornell notes have questions in them. So if you have questions, you write them here to the left-hand side. You'll notice at the bottom, when you finish, you will have a section for a summary. I completely recommend that you fill this in afterwards, because it really helps you if you look at the notes and kind of try to summarize what was happening in those notes. And that just helps you to retain the information. All right, so chapter 1-1 deals with, we're looking at variables. And you've been studying what variables are since you were pretty much in elementary. Some of you just didn't think about it. So a variable is just a letter or symbol that is used to represent some kind of a number, some kind of quantity. So you'll remember, if you'll go back to your to your first grade math, you were doing algebra already, and you probably didn't even realize it. Remember when they would give you box plus 1 equals 5, and you had to fill in the box? Well, box plus 1 should be 5, then in the box, I should have put a 4. And so you were doing algebra, ever since those worksheets that they would give you, even in first grade. We're going to be looking at algebraic expressions, which are just, expressions that contain at least one variable. You have to remember that no matter what you do, you have to follow the PEMDAS or PEDMAS, in case if you division is first and you do division first, but you have to follow that order in order to do any operation that you have that have the math, like multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, etc. Some of you probably memorized it. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally to help you remember the order, which was you would do parentheses first, then exponents, and you multiply, you divide, add, and then subtract. So here's an example of a problem that you can try. First of all, you see that I do have an exponent, I've got parentheses, etc. But if they're telling me to evaluate this, they want to know what the amount is, what the quantity is, when m is 12 and q is -1. So all I need to do is come in here for the m and put 12 in there, and for the q put that -1. Now you do realize here that there is a minus, so subtraction in between, so you have to put that symbol, and this is the negative that comes from the -1. So just be very careful with when you have those kind of situations where it looks like you already had a negative, but one's a minus, one's a negative. So then we continue the process. So according to PEMDAS, I should take care of the stuff here inside the parentheses. And if you notice, a minus and a negative, so negative becomes positive. So 3 plus 1 will become that 4. And so if you notice, the steps, you go from here to here. The 12, I really didn't do much other than substitute. Now, after the parentheses, it looks like I need to take care of the exponent. So 4 squared becomes 16. Now, just be very careful here. 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16, not 4 times 2. So just be very careful with squaring. Squaring just means doubling the number. So 4 times 4, 16, 12. So that gives you a grand total of 12 plus 16 is 28. So now another key word you're going to need to know in this section is the word formula. It's just a sentence, but it's a math sentence that shows you the relationship between certain quantities. And you've probably seen these before. The classic formulas are when we take, a perimeter, volume, area, etc. So here's a volume one. And all you need to do is know what to replace in each of these variables. So, well, pi is a constant, it's a number. So it's 3.1415, etc., right? But we normally just, you can round it off to 3.14. R is the radius. So that's the distance between the center of a circle to the side. So R is your radius, and then your height. How tall is this? In this case, it's a cone. So the formula for the volume of a cone is here. So just kind of, remember how we used to solve these in Algebra 1, possibly geometry. So just try to remember that you will be substituting numbers in there. You received some packets that we're going to be looking at. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that packet. I'm starting in section 1.1. And what we're going to be looking at is I'm going to go over some of the things that might help you in this section. Sorry about that. Let me try to get this going here. 1 second. All right, so if you'll notice, the first thing that we have are dates. And as you know, we started school a little bit later. So always think of some of these you're going to have to go in and change the dates just a little bit. So I'm going to try to do that on here. So just bear with me. So here, let's just picture this is really your first starting date is September the 8th. So if you'll just add kind of 14 days to each of these, you should be good to go. All right, so then in here, we've got some problems, and sometimes you'll see some vocabulary things that we're going to be looking at. So let me just go ahead and try to adjust my screen real quick. So at the beginning of each section, you'll notice you'll have some vocabulary terms that will help you in that section. And so if you notice, most of these are already defined in the notes that I gave you. So we're going to continue with the next slides. Anytime you see something that says key concept, especially here where it's like order of operations, go ahead and make a note of the steps. For example, here, step 1, you need to evaluate the expression inside grouping symbols. So that's the first thing we did. We looked at PEMDAS, obviously the parentheses. Then you evaluate powers. Then you multiply or divide from left to right. And then you add or subtract from left to right, depending on what the problem might be. So let's go ahead and we're going to look at a couple of examples here. In your packet, you've got already one that's already worked out for you. So I'll go ahead and let you read that. But if you notice, and there's an extra question, so let me go ahead and work this one out. So if you notice, it's asking you to evaluate f plus g squared minus 3g when f is equal to 5 and g is equal to 2. So we're going to substitute those two numbers in and see what we get. So the first thing I see is it says f. So in the f place, I'm going to put the number 5. So let me go ahead and do that. So it's 5 plus, and then g squared, well, it's this number here. And g squared then would be 2 squared. And then it says minus 3 times g. G we already know is 2. So now we do the order of operations. According to that, I should do parentheses first. So this would be minus 6 here, because negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And then we've got 5 plus, and so sorry if you notice some glitches, but let me continue. So then this was 5 plus 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. So this is what I have. Now, according to PEMDAS, I could just do the addition and subtraction because that's all I have left. Let's start here. I could go from left to right. 5 plus 4 is 9, and I have subtract 6. So when I take 9 minus 6, I get the number 3, and therefore letter A is your answer. So let's go ahead and continue looking at the notes, and I'm going to go down a little bit here. Same kind of idea, just be careful here. You're supposed to, in some of these, of course, the division is there as well. So now I'm going to jump straight to the actual lessons you're supposed to do. And so if you'll notice here, it says you're going to have in the packets the study guide and intervention. Read the notes. Read the information. It'll help you solve these problems. And so just kind of go through that. Let me go ahead and pick one of the problems to work for you. So just give me 1 sec. So if you'll notice, let's just go straight to the exercises. Let's try problem number 5. So in question number 5, you'll notice that we have, let me just delete these here. You've got several different orders of operation. So if we remember correctly, we're supposed to do the parentheses first. So let's start in here. So I've got 5 plus 2 to the 3rd power. Now 2 to the 3rd power, we have to take the number 2 times itself 3 times. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. So this should be the number 8 here. So I'm going to place 5 plus 8 here inside the parentheses squared. And I can already do this because it's the next thing I have to do is all the exponents. So this should be subtract 25. So now we do the inside of the parentheses. 8 plus 5 is 13. I'm going to square that, and I'm going to take away 25 from that. Now, if at this point, if you want to pull out a calculator, you can. I'm going to pull out the Inspire. You'll see me using it once in a while I'm doing these lessons, so that in case when you get back to campus, or if you already have one already, you can go ahead and use your calculator, and you'll know some of the keystrokes. And here it's quite simple. So I'm just looking at 13 squared minus 25. I'll let the calculator do the work for me. It's 144. So I know that the answer here should be 144. Let me do that a little bit better. There we go. Now, if we continue going through your packet, you'll notice that there's other questions. For example, these here, they're just asking you to substitute certain numbers for the letters. So let's go ahead and work a problem out here too. Let's try number 19. And so for question 19, it says 8 times C, so that's 8.2 times the letter C. C is 4. And once I do that, I'm supposed to subtract from B times D. Because remember, any 2 letters next to each other means to multiply. So I'm supposed to subtract a -3 times the letter D, which is -1/2. So now I'm going to simplify it a little more. I notice that I have a bunch of negatives here. So let's try to fix that. So first, this is multiplication. So negative times negative is always positive. And I still have this one here that I'm going to keep. But then this, I get 3 times half. You just multiply the top number. So this is like 3 over 1. And so 3 times 1 is 3 over 2. Negative and negative became positive. However, when I multiply a positive times a negative, I should end up just getting that negative. So I have now 8.2 times 4 minus 3 over 2. Now at this point, if you don't have a TI calculator, that's fine. You can just use just a regular calculator for this, but I'm going to go ahead and use the TI. So 8.2 times, now there's 2 different ways you could either do multiply. It'll put a little dot times 4. I can get that answer, which is 32.8, and then subtract. And there's a way of putting fractions in here. All you need to do is, if you notice above the division symbol, there's like a fraction key. So you press Control Divide, and then I can enter the 3, and then go down, and then so 3/2, enter. And so my grand total is 31.3. So try to practice as many of these questions that you can on your own, and we'll see you for the next chapter.